how strong is your core?
Indeed, how strong is your core? Thanks for joining me here on this video. So we have a morning worship video from the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses, and in this presentation it's delivered by Robert Luccioni, who is a helper to the publishing committee. Now he is leading a morning worship, and we all know what Jehovah's Witnesses morning worship sessions consist of. If they're not casting spells, check this video out as he goes on a rant about, wait for it, apostates. Let's dive right in and have a look.
So how strong is your core? But the real question we want to consider today is, how strong is your spiritual core? Our spiritual foundational muscles. Now, we see the importance of having a strong spiritual core when we look at today's text. In 2 Timothy chapter 3, if you look up in verse 6 here, the Apostle Paul is talking about wicked men who slyly work their ways into households and deceive many. At verse 8, he talks about Jannes and Jambres who opposed Moses. These were wicked men, completely corrupted in mind, who tried to discredit everything that Moses said and did. And then, as we see in today's text, Paul said that wicked men and imposters would arise in the last days, and they would advance from bad to worse.
As you see, Robert starts off talking about wicked men, corrupt in mind. Now, he goes on to specifically talk about apostates a little bit later in his rants, but I don't know about you, but I can't help listening to him and thinking that he's actually talking about the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses. Never mind apostates. You could easily take what he says and it can be easily referred to the governing body. What do you think? Let me know. Put your thoughts in the comments below.
Well, what did Paul say would help Timothy? What did he need to do? He needed a strong spiritual core. What was that? Well, look at what he says in verses 14 and 15, 2 Timothy 3. He says, "You, however, continue in the things that you learned and were persuaded to believe, knowing from whom you learned them, and that from infancy you have known the holy writings, which are able to make you wise for salvation through faith in Christ Jesus." Do you see the two things? And number one is he needed to have a deep and understanding and trust of the holy writings, the scriptures. And two, he needed to never forget to remember from whom he learned all the good things that he knew. See, he needed to make sure that was solid. That would help him to deal with the wicked men and imposters.
Here, Robert Luccioni is really doing his best to really reinforce this message to the followers, that they need to trust in the scriptures, the holy scriptures. And we know what their holy scriptures are. Their holy scriptures are the Watchtower magazines, their books, and all the literature that comes out of the governing bodies, departments, and also head office. So he's saying that they need to have a deep understanding. In other words, study, and study some more. And also, did you notice he says that they need to trust from where they got their understanding?
And number one is he needed to have a deep and understanding and trust of the holy writings, the scriptures. And two, he needed to never forget to remember from whom he learned all the good things that he knew. See, he needed to make sure that was solid. That would help him to deal with the wicked men and imposters.
I just found that really interesting, because in recent years, the governing body has really reiterated really strongly that Jehovah Witnesses need to trust them. They need to trust them and be ready to obey all instructions. So here they're really reinforcing that they need to read what they've been given and trust the governing body so that they can withstand these, what they class as wicked men, in other words, apostates. It makes me wonder, why are they spending so much time trying to keep people away from listening to apostates?
Now, this solid spiritual foundation is what also helped Jesus' apostles. You think about the tactics that the wicked men and imposters used against Jesus and how this could have affected the apostles, or affected us if we had been there. Let's consider 4 tactics that they used against Jesus. Number 1, they used lies and misrepresentation. Second tactic, wicked men and imposters would also twist Jesus' words.
Lies and misrepresentation. Indeed. Those are tactics of the governing body. And in fact, that is the trademark of the governing body: lies and misrepresentation.
Well, today, wicked men and imposters use exactly the same techniques, and it's only going to get worse. They use lies and misrepresentation. They lie about how we deal with child abusers, how we care for the victims of child abuse. They twist statements that are made regarding our stand on blood, loyalty to families, disfellowshipping. They capitalize on what they perceive as errors, perhaps dogmatic statements we made in the past regarding a Bible prophecy or our understanding of the time of the end, and then we later changed it.
Wait up. Hold on. Rewind and come again. What did you say?
They capitalize on what they perceive as errors, perhaps dogmatic statements we made in the past regarding a Bible prophecy or our understanding of the time of the end, and then we later changed it. Perhaps dogmatic statements we made in the past.
Dogmatic statements. Now, I can't quite find the video, and I'm sure if you remember it, please drop a comment in the comment section below. But didn't Anthony Morris go on a rant a couple of years ago to say that dogma is not what they're about? They don't preach dogma. They leave that to others, other religions. If you have access to the video, if you know what I'm talking about, leave a link in the comment section below. But I'm pretty sure he did, Anthony Morris did a video saying dogma is not their way. But isn't it interesting that this Richard bloke, he is actually admitting their errors? And what I find interesting is he's not talking about new light, which is what they like to call it. He's admitting errors. And it's not good enough, because those errors have cost people their lives. Those errors have resulted in people's deaths. Those errors have resulted in families being broken up. Those errors have left people suffering with physical and mental health conditions. Those errors have resulted in people committing suicide. Those errors have resulted in people letting their loved ones die for refusing a blood transfusion. It's just shocking. It really, really is shocking. Do you know, I remember back in the day when I was, growing up as Jehovah's Witness, and there was talk about apostates. There always have been, but I don't ever remember this level and this intensity of talk and warning about apostates. I remember going to the convention. It was mainly at our large summer conventions, not so much so at the smaller assemblies, but at the large conventions there were always groups of apostates outside, and as we were leaving, sometimes there was just a little mention from the platform that, be careful of the apostates outside. Or I remember as we were leaving, there was always like people at the gates, the brothers at the gates of the entrance where the apostates were, and they would be saying, just be careful, don't stop, don't talk to them, don't take any literature, any, that sort of thing. And that really was as much as there was talk about apostates, apart from the time that the apostates stormed our Kingdom Hall back in the 70s. I've done a video on this, and I will drop a link in the description box below. But there was a time where it was just after 1975. I was still a little girl. I remember it. When 1975 came and went due to the failed prophecy, there was a couple of people who stood up and started, saying their piece, and they were labelled apostates and disfellowshipped. But other than that, there really wasn't much in the way of warnings about apostates. But in the past couple of years, that is all the governing body seems to be talking about these days. It's not about worshipping God. It's not about leading a righteous life. It's not about being Christ-like. They're starting their morning worship with evil and wicked hearts. If they're not casting spells and spewing out hate and evil, then they're talking about apostates and warning people about apostates. And it begs the question, why? Why are they so afraid? If they have truth, why do they need to defend it? Why do they need to always be on the defense? Why do they need to warn their people not to listen to people who speak against the organisation? Why? The only reason they're doing that is because they are the ones who are wicked and deceptive. They are the ones that are spreading lies and twisting the truth. And they're running a racket. And they are deceiving people. And the only way they can keep control of people and to keep people deceived is to put fear in them so that they don't listen to apostates. when I was Jehovah's Witness, and for many years after leaving, because I escaped over 30 years ago. Well, in fact, yeah, well over 30 years ago. I was 21 when 22 when I escaped, and I was fearful of apostates all my young life. And when I escaped, for the best part of that, I was still fearful of apostates because that had been instilled in me. It's only in the last couple of years that I've started to wake up, because there's one thing about escaping and leaving, and it's a completely different thing about waking up and starting that process to wake up. And it's only in the last couple of years I've really started to wake up and have my eyes open. But up until then, still very fearful of apostates. And now that apostates are widely available on social media, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all these different platforms, there are numerous books out there, including this absolutely incredible read, Crisis of Conscience by Raymond Franz. It is a beast of a book, but if you can get hold of it, I got my copy on Amazon. If you can get a hold of this book and read it, it will blow your mind. So yes, there's so much being revealed. What lives in the dark must come to light. And Jehovah's Witnesses and the governing body, their beliefs and practices have been fully exposed in the light of day. And that's why the governing body is petrified, absolutely petrified, that their lies, their wicked lies, are being exposed. And therefore, that is why there is just so much warning to prevent their members from listening, being in contact, being anywhere near the apostates. Anybody who speaks against the organisation, and it's an abomination. It truly is. It's an abomination.
They also put a negative spin on changes that they do not understand. Say why we simplified, did reassignments in 2015, and new explanations of the generation, changes at world headquarters. What's the result? Well, some are swayed by these things. They're stumbled, they're knocked down. It's too heavy for them to carry. How about us? How strong is our spiritual core? See, that's why we hear repeatedly that we must personally have a regular, deep study of the scriptures. That's why we're reminded repeatedly that Jehovah is using the governing body to give us the good things that we have. Now, why is that so important? Well, because one day we may hit a time, whether personally, in our personal life, or as an organization, when all the other spiritual peripherals are gone, all the extras. What do we do then? What do we do, for example, if the lights go out on broadcasting? What happens perhaps when we don't have the incredible conventions, the touching videos, the catchy music, the beautifully written, well-written Watchtower articles, the exciting annual meetings? They're gone. See, some of our brothers and sisters do not have access to those things right now. We see at that time, it will come down to our faith that this is God's word, and the governing body is the channel that Jehovah has been using.
Well, we know that they're not talking about the Holy Scriptures or the Bible that mainstream Christians accept. Their scriptures is their Watchtower magazines, books and literature. And yes, the governing body does demand that the members study those materials. And in fact, wasn't it Russell who said, Charles Taze Russell, their founder, who said that you can't study the Bible and come to a knowledge of the truth. You have to, and you can only understand the Bible by reading and studying his magazines and his books. So yes, their scriptures is their magazines and their books and their publications. And as for Jehovah appointing the governing body, well, we know that Jehovah is their Jehovah, their God, their idol that they worship, who lives somewhere in their Bethel buildings in New York. They're not talking about the God of the Bible. They're not talking about the God of the heavens and the earth, the creator, the almighty, the divine. They're not talking about that. They're talking about their God, Jehovah. They're talking about worshipping their idol. Because if you've not seen my last video, I talk about they are followers of Joseph Rutherford. That's their God. Their Jehovah is Joseph Rutherford. If you've not seen that video, I will drop a link in the description box below. But yeah, when I saw this, I just laughed. I just laughed. So guys, there you go. Morning worship with Jehovah's Witnesses. Enough to set you up for life. Never mind set you up for the day. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed my review of this video. If you did, please give me the thumbs up. Click that subscribe button if you've not done so already, and leave me a comment in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts. So guys, thanks for being here, and I look forward to seeing you on another video. Take care now.